friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ev. I hope you guys are all doing well today. Today's the day I've just decided to take out all of my fall and winter clothing. So I'm wearing my November jacket again. I feel like this is going to be a couple videos in a row now that I'm wearing this, but I really like this knit, and I just love that I can overlay it over many pieces. I have my pile here of my sweaters that we knit up last winter. 1, 2, 3, 4 sweaters, and then this blue one is my blueberry vest. So I only knit 4 sweaters last year, which thought I did more. So today what I wanted to share with you guys and possibly do is just chat and knit. I have a few patterns that I think would be really interesting to have and add to my fall wardrobe, and hopefully maybe you guys can add them too. So I'm just currently knitting on my boyfriend sweater, which is the In Stillness sweater. Currently working up the body, so there's the armhole. Let's get onto Ravelry. So the first few patterns are of course by two of my favorite designers, Petite knit and My Favorite Things knitwear. The first one is sweater number 20. This is a sweater that at first I wasn't too keen on. I thought that the very chunky cables was just very chunky. This is a pattern from April last year, and the more I look at it, the more I want to cast it on. It has grown on me, and I've seen so many beautiful versions of this over on Instagram. I just love the fact that the cables go over the shoulder, kind of like the Moby sweater. I love that detail, how it follows through and kind of gives that seamless look. A very chunky V-neck at the front, and I think that that is a beautiful addition. One of my favorite things is the fact that the sweater looks like a mirror. There's like a clear split between the center V, and it goes down with the cable, and it mirrored on both sides. I find that that is such a beautiful touch. This pattern is rated as an average difficulty. However, I did see in the comments, like in the project section, a few people did this as their first cable sweater and still really enjoyed it and still got it done. So I'm not saying that if you've never knit cables, knit this sweater up, but I am saying it has been done and people still enjoyed it. And I love that it's a mixture of many different cables, so you do get a good experience between the cables and how they're knit up. Another reason why I think this pattern might be a bit more easy for beginners, like if you do decide to do it, is because this is knit up on pretty chunky needles. It calls for an Aran weight yarn, and the needle requirements are 5.5mm to 4.5, which is pretty chunky. Currently I'm in my chunky days. I feel like I'm going backwards. So my two projects that I'm currently knitting on are both US 7, which is 4.5mm needles, which to me is pretty wide. Like this knit feels like it's going pretty quickly, and so is my Moby sweater. And sweater number 20 is even chunkier at 5.5mm needles. I don't know what it is lately. I'm just giving a more chunky, I'm just looking for more chunky knits, which I guess it's my time for chunky knits. But this one, because it is more chunky woolly knit, I would suggest if you guys are looking for a project that could be used as a kind of in-between, right between summer, right between fall, like that like in-between time, I would suggest you guys check out blouse number 2. I think this pattern is perfect for that, just because of the fact that it calls for cotton weight yarn, but I'm pretty sure you could do it with a more woolly yarn. A beautiful cotton blend would be nice. One thing that I think the sweater is perfect for is as an overlay. Of course, if you wear this alone in winter with an open coat, it is kind of like lacy, so the air is just you're gonna freeze. But if you wear this over a tank top or a t-shirt or something paired with like some nice pants or a nice skirt, I think that this would look beautiful. For example, her picture where she's wearing the sweater overlay like jeans and a belt, for some weird reason I saw that and it screamed out pumpkin patch to me. You know when you go to the pumpkin patch to find the perfect pumpkin? I don't know why, but I feel like this is just such a nice sweater to be worn in that in-between, kind of as it gets too cold for summer knits, but before it gets like cold enough for woolly mohair. Like right now I'm getting a little bit warm actually in this knit, so I think that this sweater would be perfect. It doesn't call for too much yarn too. It only calls for 990 meters to 1,425 for the X small to 4XL, and it is a DK weight. So again, this isn't too small of needles. One thing that I find really interesting is that it doesn't have a ribbed collar or cuffed sleeves. So I think that that is why this falls more into a little bit that summer spring category. If I was to knit this, I would potentially knit this up in a navy blue as well, or maybe a light cream color. If you do it in like a brown, that gives off even more fall vibes. Another pattern that has been on my list for the longest time, and I bought the pattern 2 years ago, is actually the Novice Cardigan by Petite Knit. Over the summer, I picked up some yarn at my local yarn shop, Wet Coast Wools. I picked up because they finally have some knitting for Olive. So this is a mohair that I've heard wonderful things about. Actually, knitting for Olive as a whole, I've heard wonderful things about. And it is 70% mohair, 30% silk. So it is a lovely, squishy, beautiful skein. And this is the color Marzipan. It runs 225 meters to 25 grams. So I picked up a few of these to knit up the Novice Cardigan, and I want to knit it. So the Novice Cardigan is a little bit of an older pattern. It is July 2020 that it was released, and it calls for DK weight yarn. So two mohairs held together. One reason that I'm adding this to the fall list is because it is mohair. Mohair is warm, and especially held together, it is even warmer. I think that this is just such a cute, lovely overlay piece that you can throw on any outfit. Choosing a muted color like this even more, like gives you even more options for looks. I don't have a mohair only knit, so this would be my first one, and I'm kind of intrigued to see how that ends up, if it is really that warm. I think that this is just such a cute knit to have, and I've been wanting it for so long. It uses 3.5 millimeter to 4 millimeters, and it calls for 850 meters to 1500 meters for the X small to 5XL. So there are quite a lot of sizes. I think I'm gonna knit the small. It's just such a simple, lovely cardigan that I really want in my wardrobe. As rated on Ravelry, this cardigan really isn't difficult, and I keep seeing people wearing it over on Instagram, which makes me want to have my own. I'm jealous. I'm envious of all you guys that have one. So Marzipan is the color for the Novice Cardigan. The mohair edition, that's true. She also has a chunky Novice Cardigan. If you guys aren't into the whole mohair vibe, she also has the chunky version. And the chunky version is a bulky weight. It calls for an Aran and a lace weight held together. So if you're not into that mohair vibe, there is this more bulky, chunky edition, which calls for even less yarn. Another knit that I really, really want to cast on by Petite Knit is the Elisabeth Blouse. Now I have this cone that I picked up from Kensington Prairie Farm, and it is enough yarn to knit up, I think, 2 of them. So this is a lace weight yarn. It's supposed to be used for roving, but I'm just gonna use it held together, I think twice or 3 times. I think I need to hold it 3 times together for it to be thick enough. This is 100% baby alpaca. It is variegated teal, and this is from Kensington Prairie Farm. So this is the color. And yeah, I want to knit the Elisabeth blouse with this one. I think that it would look stunning, and based off, I don't know, this color just really suits me. I think it's because of my eyes. Well, I was into the whole color palette trend over on TikTok when I picked up this cone. So that is why we went with it. I want to get into more figuring out what my color palette is and what colors suit me best. So hopefully we can cast on this bad boy in the winter. She knit it in a gorgeous, lovely navy, but I think a beautiful teal for me would look really, really nice. So this is a pattern that was recently released at the beginning of the year, and it calls for 1,120 meters to 1,790 meters from X small to 5XL. So again, this is a pattern with many sizes. She knit this up premium cashmere. We're not gonna go there. That's a little bit much. But what really, really drew me to this blouse, this sweater, is the V-neck with the little floppy, what do you call that? Like polo? Is that a polo collar? But the little, you know, fold over opening, that's really what called me. I love the V-neck and I love the flaps. She wrote down shirt collar. As always, petite knits are super fun because they're knit top down, which I always love. The work techniques used are Judy's Magic Cast On, German Short Row, Double Knitting, and Italian Bind Off. This calls for a lot of different needles. Interesting. It calls for 2.5 millimeter, 3.5 millimeter, and 4 millimeter. I wonder why the 2.5, if that's for the collar maybe? interesting. I haven't bought the pattern yet, so I will buy it, but I don't have it I can't read it because I don't have it. One new designer that really piqued my interest recently is Junko Okamoto. And now that I'm into chunky vibes, I think that I can do it. Hopefully when I go to Knit City, I can pick up some chunky vibes for one of these designs. First design that inspired me of hers was Rug, which is actually a free pattern. It is this gorgeous round yoke, really loose chunky sweater. It calls for bulky weight. It doesn't use up that much yarn. It only uses 970 meters, and it is a gorgeous color work sweater round yoke. Just love how big and loose and airy her designs are. I feel like they are perfect for winter. They scream winter. Some people have even done this in the long and turned it into a dress. One thing that always scares me about that is like, how much yarn do you buy when you plan on making a dress? This pattern is pretty old. It was released in 2015, so I think this is my oldest pattern that I have in this list so far. Then she also has, from September 2019, she has the Elena sweater, which is another knit. I just love this one so. I just love how unique it is, how there's a very deep V on the front and the back, and the color work. It's such a interesting that it just goes down and then like at an angle. I don't know how this is worked up. Does she say? Oh, it doesn't say. I'm really intrigued to see how it works up. I think you work it in the flat, if I'm correct. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you work it in the round, but like as a flat, and then you add the sleeves, which is really, really interesting. It is a sport weight, so a little bit on the smaller needles. So it calls for 3.5 millimeter, 3 millimeter, and 2.5 millimeters. And it uses 1600 to about 2100 meters, depending on your size. But I just love this pattern so much, and I really, really want to cast it on and knit it up. And finally, the dress that is called For My Friend. I love this one so much. It is a sport weight, and I love the intricate kind of like diamond design, kind of like this, all over the back. So cozy. I feel like this in a warm chalet would just, that's it. I feel like I could just cocoon in this and live in this dress forever. Pattern is pretty big, so it calls for 1700 meters to 1800 meters. It uses sport weight, which is 3.75 millimeters, 3.25, and 3 millimeters. If you guys haven't heard of Junko Okamoto, I highly recommend you guys check her out. I'm gonna put a few more images of her, but she's just a pattern designer that I've been really excited about and just love her style, and I want to cast these on, so hopefully this is some yarn that I can go pick up at Knit City. The next project that I hope to cast on and I've been having my eye on is actually one that I got from my 52 weeks of shawl books, because why not use the book we have? It is actually the Autumn Vibes shawl. This is a gorgeous shawl that uses DK weight yarn, and I have the perfect yarn for it. This was a gift from my mom. This is the Cashmere Lang yarns, and I think that this gorgeous gray blue cashmere yarn would be perfect for it. I have just enough yarn. The shawl is a DK weight shawl, and it uses 5 millimeter needles and 4 millimeter needles, so it should be a pretty quick knit. It is 370 meters to 560 meters, and it's just a beautiful half moon type of shawl with a really nice lace work at the border. I think that this would be a perfect addition to my wardrobe, and lately I'm trying to get into shawls. I'm still knitting the scarf, my Drops of Memory shawl, which is like a rectangle, so it's more of a scarf. I'm still knitting that one up, but I think in the meantime, while that one takes me 10 years to make, let's cast on a new shawl and let's use up some gorgeous cashmere yarn. This would be my first time knitting with cashmere. This is 100% cashmere. It is 115 meters, the 25 gram skein. Hopefully we can cast this on in the upcoming weeks. The second to last one that I want to share with you guys, I currently have the yarn for, and I'm really, really excited to cast on, is the Porcelain Sweater. The yarn that I will be using is Fingering. The skein has been a little bit bruised. Columbia Fingering Onto the Hills by Fiber Co. And this is their color. Blend Cathra. Because why give it a simple name? It kind of looks like the Marzipan Knitting for Olive, and this is a light cream gray skein. It runs 320 yards. It is 10% mohair, 90% wool. So I'm really interested in using this yarn. This would be the second time that I'm using it because I used the exact same yarn for my white stripes in my Marseille sweater. So this was published in Le Knit websites. It is a pattern from December 2022. It calls for fingering weight, 3mm to 4mm needles, and it's just such a gorgeous design. I love it. I think if I use this color, it would be similar to the color that they have in the sample. I don't have a blue like that because right now I don't have a contrast color for this. For the contrast color, they only used about 100 grams. So I think like one skein, if I go and pick up one fingering skein, about, this is 100 grams, 28 yards. I'm pretty sure if I pick up another, just like one skein of a contrast color, that should be more than enough to knit this beautiful sweater. Hopefully I can put a picture here. Someone actually turned this into a cardigan, and I'm not too sure if they didn't knit it in the round or they steeked it. I thought that was gorgeous. It's just such a fun color work. I love the ribbed collar that is kind of like out, but still part kind of just like higher, runs a little higher than your typical round yoke sweater. And I just love the really long, that's probably like a 4-inch cuff sleeve. And again, with a really long rib at the bottom. I think that that is gorgeous. I wonder if you could even do this with as a twisted rib. I would maybe try this with a twisted rib. I think lately I used to be against twisted rib, but lately I'm really into it. So that would probably be a modification I make. Because this yarn does have mohair in it, I don't think I would mix mohair like an extra strand. I think I would just knit this as is. And then the last sweater that I want to share with you guys isn't actually a sweater, but it's just an accent piece that I think would look stunning with every wardrobe. Can be worn to go skiing, can be worn to go just like keep yourself warm, but you know, still have mobility to party in the clubs. It's actually the Amy Slipover. So this is a slipover that was published in Sadness Design. I'm really big in turtlenecks. I am someone who's always loved turtlenecks, and I love the really big chunky turtleneck. The bows on the side are so adorable, and it is knit in the flat, and then you attach and keep on knitting for the bows. It calls for a fingering weight, so a lace weight and a fingering weight held together. So a really light woolly yarn with a lovely mohair to add a little fuzz or frizz. If I was to knit this, I would possibly knit this in a gorgeous black yarn as well, just because I think that over a white chemise or blouse, this looks beautiful. I think it's very modern and in the moment right now to have a very loose overlay piece like this. This only calls for 1600 meters, and I think this is a one size. Yes, it's a one size fits all. So I think that wraps it up for the fall cast on wish list, which is pretty long. I think that ends up being 10 different patterns, 10 different knits, mainly sweaters. If you guys are planning on casting any of the knits that I mentioned, please let me know. Or if you would be interested in seeing more about one of these knits as I knit it up, let me know in the comment section down below. I love hearing from you guys, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!